course, it's Tuesday night. It means the Tuesday ticket on the Bhoycie Bus. And just to keep me a wee bit more company than normal, we've decided to bring on the Punk Duck Warlord as well to join Jim White down the bottom there. What's happening, lads? How we doing? Welcome aboard. Tuesday night. Carry on.
Aye, doing great, Russell. Good to be on with the brothers Bhoycie, and I was ready to just settle in and watch this afternoon. But it's a blast to be on it, especially
Thanks,
after
man.
last night. I loved it. I loved last night's. I liked the
Did you?
conspiracy.
The conspiracy theory, that'll guy. Well, it's just all about, I think people feel we can only say things on podcasts if they can then go, well, I've heard this. It might not be true, but I've heard this. I would rather just tell you what dots I've joined from it, from my own wee imagination, and then just fucking run with that. But you know what? I kind of have to believe it as well. Jonathan, it is Tuesday, mate. We'll get your opening gambit just in a wee minute. Before we do all that, it's time for all that good stuff. All that good stuff. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus subscriber, do it now. We've jumped up 207 subscribers. I counted it. I read it earlier. In June. So make sure you hit that wee subscribe button if you are watching along right now. And if you are watching and you've already done subscribe, there's no excuse not to hit the wee thumb at the bottom right. Gives me like. It gets us all the algorithm, all that traction, and gets this bus busier, baby. If you also want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like so many of you have, it's totally optional. It is $1.99 a month, but nobody cares. It's entirely up to you. We just really appreciate the support. Patrick McLaughlin, he's a Bhoycie Bus member. So is Mark Kay. So is Phil McGinley. So is David Kelly, and so many more. We really do appreciate it. It does make sure that the bus is worthwhile putting out, that we're not actually paying a fortune. Oh, look, there's a few more members there. GGR straight in there, as is Ali, and GGR using his membership wee logo thingy to do a clover. It just comes up clover on StreamYard. Full times in a podcast, and they're honorary members as well. I hope they are doing good. Great lads at the Full Times. Check them out. Obviously, when we speak about checking it out, check out ED Pharmacy. Head along there, because you don't want to be going on any long trips, Jonathan, for any vacations,
Oh no.
and then just underperforming. If you're crossing the water, mate, you need to be able to head over and go there with some style. And if you're going to last all night long, then head over to ED Pharmacy. Use their tools. edpharmacy.co.uk. Use the code BUS10. You get same-day delivery anywhere in Central Scotland, 7 days a week. What's all that about? Order cut-off time is 6 p.m. Discreetly packaged as well. And yes, it doesn't need to be because you can't get going. It could just be you want to keep going a bit longer. So edpharmacy there.co.uk, or scan that QR code, and when you get to the checkout, use BUS10 for a wee horny 10% off, we'll call it. Piesports.com as well. Remember, get your halftime dishes at piesports.com, and obviously you get the discount code BUS1888. Struggle to remember that one there. And it is 12.5% off you get there. I was blaming Steve-O for ordering the $46
Oh, that was Terry.
It was Terry. All right, you obviously watched the show, man. What's he talking about? It was Terry. Terry's my favourite.
Yeah, obviously I know what Terry's up to. Of course, I keep tabs on Terry.
Terry, mate. You love Terry. I've only got one thing to say to you, Jonathan, if you keep up interrupting me. It's that simple, mate. But anyway, I won't interrupt you. I will show you the currency because it's the opening of a Tuesday. Take it away, Jonathan Boyce.
Well, Russell, we are now in a week of pledges and promises. We've seen Brendan Rodgers pledge to commit the next 3 years to Celtic Football Club. We've seen Dermot Desmond pledge to back him clearly behind the scenes. Promises have obviously been made to certain players that Brendan has an eye for the future in terms of European football. I think that much is obvious. And when you're looking even further afield at more promises, the fixture list arrives on Friday, and what promises to be another fantastic season if you support Glasgow Celtic. I think when you're looking at things at the moment through the media, they want to portray a bit of doom and gloom. However, the pledge and the promise I have for everyone on the bus tonight is that this season will go the same as the last, and that is that Celtic will walk away with another treble on top of an extended European run. But before we get into all of that next season, we've got the small matter of the summer transfer window, and business is about to pick up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And that is a pledge and a promise from the Tuesday Tickets favourite opening gambit. Stephen Ray was in the comments there saying, is that Hugh Keevins doing an impression of Chick Young? I think it's a bit like that. It's a bit of a hybrid. He started with Jim White. He started like he was Jim White, and he's total morphed into Hugh Keevins now. He's completely Hugh now. He'll be curling his R's before you know it. But yes,
he's not got long left. There's a gap in the market. Hugh's going to be coming off fairly
there's
soon.
a gap
Anyway.
in the market.
There's a gap in the market there to be exploited. He's gone soon. Surely.
There's a gap in the market. I mean, have you ever heard anything like it in your life, Liam? Well, one of the stories that we need to talk about is apparently Leo Abada not signing a new deal now. Ironically, talking about pledges and promises, it's quite funny when we find ourselves in a situation, Liam, where we're talking about wingers when Brendan left and wingers when Brendan comes in. At one point, he had 100 wingers. He didn't even know who Marion Shved was. Now he's been in the door, and he said the three players that I don't know if you remember the interview he did, the one for Celtic with Jerry McCulloch, and he said, the only three. I nearly did the Brendan accent there. I'll save that. I'll get better at that as the season goes on. I had it nearly mastered last time he was here. I'll pick that back up as the season goes. But he basically said, like, out of the players that were still here when he was here last time, he was like, there's obviously Callum, and he says, and James Forrest is currently here. I always thought currently here. He doesn't slip up his words often, Brendan, you know? And I thought, I wonder what he means about currently here. If he's maybe, that's him saying he's a wee bit maybe on the periphery now, sort of thing. And then he said Scott Bain's also in the goalkeeping section or something, which couldn't sound further like he's definitely not. He's definitely not in the starting line.
He's went past the corner. He's like, "Oh, you're still here, aye?"
Another new deal, good for you. Same length as yours, Brendan. 3 more years, baby. But yes, the story today is Leo Abada might not sign a new deal. Yeah, this story seems to have been going on for a year. First and foremost, he seemed to be offered this new deal after only one full season at Celtic, and there was stories he was rejecting it then. I would have liked to have thought, in his case, that working with Brendan would be something he would be thriving on and absolutely desperate to do. Each to their own, of course. And if he doesn't want to do that, I think it'd be wise of Brendan just to sort of take the Ange approach. I think, as I was saying last night, I believe Brendan will not do what Ange does in terms of not getting that EPL tax or the Brendan Rodgers tax, whatever you want to call it, and get those fees bumped up if they are to be going down south, which I think would be the most likely destination for Abada. But notwithstanding that, I just think that he's got 3 years left. Like, it's a wee bit odd that this whole new deal thing for the second not even the second summer, it's kind of been rumbling on for about the last 10 months. Seems I think Brendan would be better just cutting his losses, taking the Ange approach, but adding that EPL tax and then having even more autonomy and more power in that transfer window that it seems he's going to be armed with going into it.
Well, it's probably a position where you have more opportunities and options than anywhere else on the park. There's always wingers available. There's always new wingers appearing on the scene who get hot, just like Marion Shved and, Mikey Johnson even at a time. So they do, but, and Abada, I thought he was very hot and cold, but going back to what you're saying with he's got a 5-year contract, and he signed in that summer when we signed about 5 or 6 other players on 5-year contracts. And yet he's the one that's been the most noisy out of all of them starting off in last year. In fact, I heard a lot more stuff coming out of Abada's agent and what Abada was about Abada's being unhappy or whatever than you did from Giacomakis, his agent, as well. And so it was funny. I was figuring, well, the way he treated Gigi and I figured, well, he will draw that same hard line with Abada. But no, as soon as he was back for injury, he was right on the park and he was right there. So you see that Ange really liked him. Now, I think teams will come in and we'll get good value for him. I'd like to think so, but if he really, really wants away, are we in another situation where we've got a player that we overvalued, that we thought we were going to get a lot, and then, I think anything under 10 million would be disappointing for Abada. Do we sell him and get 5 million to a team like, a Southampton or a Brighton, like in the Championship? So, yeah, he's a funny one. And, also as well, him being Israeli as well, they always talk about English is difficult for him as well too. And that might be a hard part with him settling as well too. And I don't know if that means going back to Israel.
It's not exactly English you speak in Glasgow, is it? It's not exactly like stereotypical English that you're speaking in Glasgow either, is it? Do you know what I mean?
No, it must be really difficult, and it could be a really lonely place if you don't have a lot of people for your culture,
I just wonder, Jonathan, if the player power thing almost was a wee bit, I don't know, something that Ange didn't always hand out. It sounds like they're doing a lot of revisionism on the bus here, and anything you can have a wee sort of prod at Ange for that you're doing, do you know what I mean? With sticks, yeah. But I just feel like when it comes to players having an opinion or maybe doing anything that upset the apple cart, it's quite quick just to go, right, I'll fucking see you later then, mate. Just get out, and you're gone, and that's it. And it seems pretty cutthroat. I don't think we'll have that with Brendan. I think it'd be far more diplomatic. I think if the story is Abada has rejected the deal, then I think what Liam's trying to say, there's been a lot more noise about Abada not accepting new terms as opposed to Abada per se being noisy about it. I don't think that's been the case. I don't think Abada came out and released any press articles. But in terms of the noise about Abada rejecting offers, I think that's what you're saying, Liam. And I think that's undeniable, by the way. I think there seems to have been this story, as I say, rumbling on for ages. I think Brendan would be far more diplomatic to, okay, if you don't want to sign the new deal, that's fine. You've got 3 left to go. If we get an offer we see fit, we'll then sell you. Don't spit out your dummy. Keep developing. The clubs that are in for you now might be of a different level come next summer. If you fucking shut up, listen, buckle down. If you actually remember, Stuart Armstrong, in the most bizarre contract extensions of all contract extensions, was 26 years old, I think, 26. And he signed a 1-year extension to his contract that only had 6 months left on it. Do you remember that?
Right.
So he basically was going to be in the exact same position all over again. And he basically left the building for 7 million that summer. Sure, the fee. But that 1-year extension always confused me. So, he signed it when he had 1 year left. He said 1 year left. Rather than Celtic selling for 7 million then, they waited another year. Now, when it comes to a 1-year deal, I think Andrew would have told him to go fuck yourself, basically, in essence, because he just said, I don't need you signing another 1-year deal and have the same riddle to solve this time next summer. Brendan, seemed quite diplomatic about that. I always thought, we'll tackle it next summer. But I would rather keep the good player here for the time being. Jink, I don't think he'll be begging anyone, but I do think there'll be more diplomacy here, and I think it'll be on, like we've seen with Brendan's arrival and as such. I think Abada even will be very much on Celtic's terms, not the players' terms, and I don't think we need to also just say jump whenever they say how high either. I don't think it means if we wanted 40 grand a week, we need to then bow to those demands. I also don't mean, though, if he rejects a deal, having already committed only 2 years ago to a 5-year one, that should mean he's definitely chasing the exit door. And I think Brendan will have he'll look at the bigger picture with that one and look at more avenues to it. Do you know what I mean, Jonathan, than just being fucking, it's a year and nay, and if he says no to the deal, then he must want out, and we'll just get rid of him at any price possible. I don't think that's how this one will play out.
No, I think with Brendan, I think one thing everyone is in agreement with is he is an ambitious manager and he is an ambitious person. So when he's going to be looking at these sorts of things with players, he's going to be accepting, I think, more of their ambitions to perhaps play in what they believe to be a better standard of league against a better standard of player. And he probably gets that and understands that perhaps a little bit more than Ange Postecoglou and is willing to kind of work with that, with the players, and maybe turn around and be like, well, okay, if the right bid comes in, I'll let you go. However, if not, you're with one of the best coaches, and he'll back himself here. He's going to say he's one of the best coaches in Britain, if not in Europe, that you're working with just now. Stick with me. I can work on a development plan that'll mean that instead of a club like Brighton that, Liam's talking about coming in for you in a year's time, it could be like a Spurs or something along those lines that are coming in for you. It could be the next tier up in England because I can develop you that much. And I think, with the way Brendan tends to build relationships with players, a lot of them I've enjoyed working with, and I think that's well documented throughout his career. And there were no doubt moments and times where he's had players that were looking at the exit door and thinking it's time to move on. And Brendan Rodgers, just like he can do with the fans, has been able to work his charm a little bit, make a couple of promises. Maybe there's a couple of porkies thrown in there as well, but he gets them buying into whatever he's selling. And they end up committing for slightly longer because they get so much enjoyment out of working with a top coach like a Brendan Rodgers. So I think from that point of view, Brendan is totally different from Ange because he's already shown how ambitious a manager he is. I think Ange has the same ambitions. I think he just didn't like people that weren't committed fully to the club. I think Brendan Rodgers looks at it more as if, well, I would probably look at something like this if I was in your position. I think he kind of almost relates more to what the players are thinking about. And I think he would then be able to adapt how he handles the player better in that situation because it's well documented as well. Ange wasn't as much for people person, I don't think, as Brendan Rodgers was. I think Ange kind of liked to leave the players to their own devices and he would take a step back and he'd kind of be more the teacher and come in when he's needed. Whereas I think Brendan Rodgers is certainly going to be more hands-on with every single player, which will include Abada in that mix. And I think
will know their soul. He'll not just know their best position on the park, he will know every detail about their soul, mate.
Yeah, well, this is it. He'll find out their stories. He'll find out their stories and then he'll use them to his own and the club's advantage because that's what Brendan does better than anyone. He can make it seem as if he's look at me, I'm lovely, I'm caring all about you. But really, in the back of his head, he's doing something calculated. He's calculating something in the back of his head. He's proven he's got that in him on more than one occasion so far. But if you're asking me if it's concerning about Abada, no, not so much because I think Brendan Rodgers is the type of manager that will be able to convince him to stay, even if he is perhaps eyeing up the exit door. And, he's got 3 years left in his deal. I don't think Abada's the type that's going to throw his toys out the pram about the thought of having to spend, another year at Celtic potentially and further developing his game under such a top-class manager. So it's not one that overly concerns me. I think we'll hold on to him.
Yep, it's one of those. I was going to take a wee deeper dive into the winger situation just shortly, Liam. There's Scott Cameron, a legend of the bus, and he's saying like and share and all that good stuff. There's 130 live, so big shout out. It's another busy bus. What's it you do? Fucking like, share, all that carry on. I don't even get notifications when the bus goes live. I don't even know how to turn on notifications. Although, whenever Endless Celts go live, I get a notification for it. So I must have put it on for them. I don't even know how I did it. I'm fucking hopeless with this sort of thing. But the wingers thing's interesting because obviously we're being linked right now as well with a winger, the Australian young lad, Tilio, is it? Is that right? Johnson, yep. Correct? Is that right, Tilio?
Sounds good to me.
What?
Sounds good to me. Sounds like it's pronounced to me.
Someone will correct us in the comments.
Phil will correct us if we're wrong. He's in the chat.
That's all right, man. That's all right. If whoever's in the comments, tell me. Everyone's like, he played for Italy in 1982, boys. What are you talking about? But yes, I think the winger situation, if James Forrest is currently still here and Tilio is incoming and Abada's not signing new deals, Jota for me is the one. The most, I feel Hatate, for all the ability he's got, I don't think it's as important a cog in the midfield as what Callum McGregor is. So therefore, he's the secondary guy to me to everything about Celtic working going forward. Right? Callum McGregor brings so much more to the table than just his 90 minutes in the park. So he is, in that area, the second guy. I think in the wings, there is one outstanding winger at Celtic, one of real ability that I would have no doubt, maybe taking a wee bit of time, but top half English Premier League, easy peasy. If that's the meter we always need to gauge everything on. I mean, I think the other top 5 leagues in Europe, I don't think it would struggle either, to be honest with you. particularly because of the couple of years he's now had at Celtic. He's a far more rounded player. But Jota for me, Liam's one that I really get excited about developing further under Brendan. I think that's one that he's a very, I don't know what it is just about Jota in the part. I know he looks great and all that. He's a poster boy and stuff. But Jota actually always comes over extremely intelligent. Like, he is switched on, mate. He's listening to every word you say. You know, and I just feel like with someone like Brendan who's all about that sort of the message getting across, and he won't just be leaving Jota to it and go, good players can play. He'll be coaching them, you know, really coaching them individually. And I think, see, when people talk about James Forrest revival, that was a lot down to Brendan, right, in that first era. And I actually think when you watch Patrick Roberts at times, he was fucking unreal. Well, it's just James Forrest was in such amazing form. Roberts didn't always start. When Roberts played under Rodgers, remember he scored at Man City and all that? People forget that when we drew there. You always think the 3-all draw. We drew down there as well, and it was Patrick Roberts. How he got to play against his parent club. Wonder if that's because we're all in the same City group. But yeah, he scored in that game. And I think Rodgers takes these wide players, you know, to that next level. Scott Sinclair came in, head down from a disappointing relegation with Aston Villa, an unfruitful spell at Man City before that. He came spanked in 27 goals in his first season at Celtic. I think Jota will be the number one winger at the club. Then you look at someone like Maeda, and I'll get your thoughts on Jota as well, but we're just going to pair them together. Maeda's one, technique-wise, I'm not convinced Brendan will be over-enamoured with. I think when you looked at how he utilised Ollie Burke in a couple of games before he obviously departed in the night in February to Leicester, I don't think Ollie Burke was a Brendan Rodgers production of a signing. I think he's got similar traits. I think Maeda's an upgrade, don't get me wrong. But I wonder if Maeda could be one that, you know, he maybe looks at technique-wise and goes, like the intensity, like the pace, but he'd be very much someone I would bring on to impact the game when we're chasing it, you know, and we're under, you know, it's 10 minutes to go and you're going a wee bit more gung-ho, as it were. In terms of his actual setup, I don't know about Maeda. I think Jota very much, and I would have thought Abada would have been in that sort of bracket. And then you've got the curious case of Haksabanovic as well. And Haksabanovic, to me, Brendan's not going to be as reliant on pace and intensity that way. He wants to bring power to the team. But if you look at what the players have done, they've not always had to have this electric pace. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of Angie's attacking plan was about, you know, it was about really being able to put the afterburners on. You wonder if Haksabanovic will have a greater chance under Rodgers as well. But just your thought on those three.
Well, I think what that does, like those three, let's put it right, of those three players and how they're going to play, this is why it's so good that we went for the best guy on the list, the one with the most experience, the one with the one that was the most qualified, because he's tackled every single one of those issues before. And that's, you got one position, you got three different issues completely there. You know, with Jota, you don't need to give Jota instructional or strategic information. I think with Jota, it could be motivational. And we know that Rodgers has got that magic. He's got that charm. He knows that he can get a tune out of Jota. Jota just has to do what he does. He just needs that bit of motivation, that arm around his shoulder. Says, get out there. I want to see it every game. Don't let you go by. Make an imprint in every game. Abada, I think it might be, well, let's say Abada, but Maeda, I think, yeah, that's more instructional. And so that's when a good manager comes in that's good on the training pitch. And if he can find where that weakness is in Maeda's game, and it's his first touch and it's his ball control. But also as well, we've got him chasing a lot of balls as well, and a lot of his goals. You know, I used to think it was scrambles and stuff until I seen him hit that 30-yard peach, you know, like right into the top corner where he ran across the box.
Such an enigma.
With Hacksaw, this is where Rodgers going to have to be clever. It's like, okay, how do you find a place for him in your team? Because I've liked everything Haksabanovic has shown. I've not always liked the way he's been set up and the way he's been thrown into a game. You know, I think he's really good in close quarters. And when we're trying to break down one of these big, you know, bloated defences, somebody that's running with the ball into the box gives us a far better chance of getting, I know it's Scottish football, but pulled down or fouled in that in a way that, you know, can come to a penalty kick. But also just putting pressure on their defenders by dribbling at them. And I think Haksabanovic brings that to the game. So it's how do you place him in a team? So as you say, it's no reliant pace. that we've got somebody that's skillful and can take a ball. And I think that's what Paddy Roberts had. I think if you look at the three players, Hacksaw, I think, has got the closest to become like a Paddy Roberts type player. Very good with ball control, gets hit, doesn't get intimidated, gets back up and just keeps back and keeps running at guys. You know, Abada's not got that bravery, I don't think. And then, you know, Jota, that's all going to be skill in Maeda. Yeah, he just needs to be trained up to actually learn some football skills.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because I think Maeda, I think you're right though. When you look at that goal at Easter Road, you go, fucking hell, look at that. You know, that's been in the locker the whole time. The whole time. Where's he pulling that from? Jota, for me, I think definitely will improve further. I think he's got the hunger to improve further. Mark Kearney's coming in. He's saying any player that wants to do better will get better under Rodgers. And he thinks Jota might just be one of those hungry players who will go to that next level. If he stays, of course, I think he will stay. I think Jota's one of those folk who's not in a hurry to leave. So I think he's really counted his blessings since he came here as well, and he's took it in his stride. And I've got to say, I think in terms of the wingers, I thought that would have been very similar for Abada as well. But when we look at the three that we've just mentioned before, Jonathan, do all three of them make the cut in the Rodgers revolution, as it were?
I think he'll give all of them an opportunity to prove their worth. I'd agree. I think Jota is probably going to be the standout one under Brendan. He's going to be the one that he turns into an absolute superstar if he isn't already at Celtic. I could see him going on to really, unbelievably high levels with a year or two under Brendan, and he might end up becoming the player we look back on most fondly of the second time around with Brendan Rodgers. I could see him producing even more goals, assists. I could see him becoming a bit more like his sort of Scott Sinclair, but with a bit more panache, a bit more skill, a bit more flair than Sinclair had when he was in the building. I think you look at the other ones, Haksabanovic, I think is a bit of an enigma. I think there is a player there. I think he's been a bit unfortunate with injuries last season. I think Ange probably never gave him as much time as he really needed. In a lot of games, he was coming on with only about 10 minutes to go and having to try and make an impact, which is never easy. I think Brendan will nurture him a bit more if he's willing to learn. I think Brendan Rodgers, again, can bring him on because there certainly is a player there. I like his feet work, as Liam was alluding to as well. I think that's pretty good for the Scottish game to try and break down tight defences. And I look at Maeda, and Maeda's probably the one that a lot of fans might think he's maybe not going to get as much of a break with Brendan because there is a lot of question marks, I think, for a lot of people around Maeda because of the fact he does a lot off the ball. That's what we always go back to. That's what the biggest supporters of Maeda say, is that he does a lot and he's the one who instigates the press. And Ange Postecoglou, it was Ange's boy, Maeda. Maeda always would play the big games for Ange Postecoglou if he's fit as one of the wingers. I don't think there was very many occurrences where he didn't start those types of games when he was fit. But I do wonder if, he's going to have enough of the skill set that Brendan Rodgers would look for in a player. I think Brendan will like the pressing aspect of his game because Brendan Rodgers is another one who likes to press from the front and try and get the ball back as quickly as possible. But I just wonder if there's enough about Maeda's game when he's actually on the ball that Brendan Rodgers will think, yep, you can do me a solid here, if he's going to look at him and think, I'm not so sure. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou is more familiar with Maeda, probably knew how to get him playing as well, which might boil into it slightly. If you were to tell me one out of the three that I think might struggle a bit more under Brendan, it possibly would be Maeda, but that's not to say I'm writing him off by any stretch of the imagination. He's just as capable of being one of these guys that, we comes in and, under Brendan Rodgers, he proves that he's a far better player than anyone thought. I remember him doing it with James Forrest in his first time around. Everyone thought Forrest was done and his race was run. And then only a year or two later, he was getting linked with Liverpool, if you remember James Forrest. So that goes to show that Brendan Rodgers has a way with players, and even the ones that are at the club just now, even if you're looking at the whole collective, even away from the wingers, don't be surprised if there's a player in there that you think might be for the way out, that Brendan Rodgers turns around and they become an absolutely integral part of the team. And it might be somebody we just don't see coming, and that somebody might just be Maeda, who might just prove his critics wrong.
You just never know. You never know, because that's an interesting wee topic of conversation Jonathan's brought up there just out of nowhere. Because there is going to be someone, I think, that will come back from the brink. And, you know, I can actually see it when he's got the champagne in his hand after match day one. And it's the Sky Sports commentator, Liam, and he passes the champagne to our favourite Irish midfielder, and he goes, "Well, you know, I've only played a couple of games." James McCarthy, you are the man of the match. You know, I've played a couple of games. And what was it? Why did he do that? Do you know the best thing about Brendan coming back was that clip just going viral again? It's just even the faces he pulls at the press was like, "Oh, I've played a couple of games." I don't know, I've said it 3 times. I'm exhausted that day. But
Yeah, but
you
what
just
is
never
it?
know it. Go on.
It's with Castlemilk. You ever been to Castlemilk? Everybody's like, it's the funniest people on the planet live in Castlemilk. Always our my family. They're all like that. All the bloody time.
I don't know why he's full of that press. It was just like everyone else, like really proud to join, and that is just like, oh, played a couple of games. I don't know. I wonder if David Turnbull might just maybe have one last resurrection in him under Brendan Rodgers. I mean, I look back last summer, for example, lads, and I go, no way. If Brendan was coming in now and Chris Julian was still there, for example, would he just be like, "You're not getting in"? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not, like, he would have definitely afforded him the opportunity, for example. And I just wonder if I think centre back wise, I think Starfelt will be a player that I think will remain. I think he might do better than people think. I think he might be that. I think he might be because TCB might miss the start of the season. Rodgers is going to go, "I'll make a fucking player out of you, Starfelt. Didn't you listen to them? Because I need to." I was doing the first games of the season with, was it you and O'Donnell?
Oh, you O'Connell. O'Connell.
Right?
O'Connell.
O'Connell.
Sorry. O'Connell and stuff. And it's like fucking, like, you know, a Swedish international, and they're like folk are questioning, I'll do all right with him. So look forward to seeing what Brendan does and what surprise. And I think, by the way, whilst it's easy just to be right now winding up, you know, anything Ange's done that we can now find negative, I think we've got to also be honest, Liam, and say, you know, fucking Greg Taylor, for example. I know he's not been your favourite player in the world, but has he achieved higher standards than you think he was capable of a year ago? I think Ange did well with him. I'm not saying he was a world beater, but I think he certainly did. He certainly brought him from being a peripheral player to one of his main guys. I thought it would have fell on his face being one of our main guys. Such was the PTSD from the lockdown season. But he actually became someone that you weren't crying if he started or anything. In fact, I'm not saying he's Champions League quality in that, but he made him a hell of a lot of a better player, and he pulled him kind of from the left field in terms of, you'll be surprised how key a player this guy is. What once could you imagine Brendan doing that with this time around in the current setup?
So here's the biggest opportunity I think falls to Rocco Vata, right? So here we've got a young.
Oh, I love this.
I like his left field. This, I like it.
So Rocco, he was knocking on the door last year. He was getting games. If Abada's off, then we've got a piece of homegrown talent ready to step into a dynamic team that's Rodgers, and that does two things. That keeps the boys in the, coming up through the ranks happy that all of a sudden we've got that conduit there, and it's and it also solves a problem for us as well with Scottish trained players. So he qualifies for that as well, despite being Irish internationalist. But I think that's the one I'm excited about. I want to see what you can do with him. I want to see, okay, can you turn him into a really good winger? Everybody's seeing stuff in him. I saw stuff in him. What can Rodgers do with him? That's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment as well. There will be, I mean, David Kelly's coming and says Rodgers doesn't do youth players, I'm afraid. I think Rodgers do players that do Rodgers' teams favours, David, if I'm honest with you. I don't think it's as binary as if they're a youth player, he won't do it. I would trust his eye for a player. And if someone's used him before and they've got a wee bit of experience, okay, that might be even better. But I think if he sees someone in training, Jonathan, he goes, I fucking know my own eyes. He is a player and more full hands that he wasn't getting a game before, say it was Rocco Vata and that, I don't think he'll have any hesitations. I'm not quite as binary as what David's been there, that he won't do youth players. I don't think it'll be as straightforward as that. What do you think?
No, I mean, he definitely, I think, will have a look at the youth setup. You know, he showed again in his first spell that he wasn't afraid of giving the youth an opportunity. Tony Ralston made his breakthrough under Brendan Rodgers. And, you know, in fairness, Ralston wasn't terrible to begin with under Brendan at all. He ended up obviously going completely downhill. But we've found out and since discovered that Ralston's actually not a bad player. He's certainly not as bad as we first thought. To begin with, and I think if Rodgers hadn't
That's
left
another,
us,
that is a great point. Sorry, I should have said Ralston as well. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, no, I think with Ralston, I think he would have been, a far more important player for Celtic earlier on if Brendan hadn't left. Unfortunately, Lennon wasn't able to get the best out of him for whatever reason. I vaguely remember he also gave other guys opportunities as well, so I don't think he was completely against it. You know, Calvin Miller, I'm pretty sure he gave opportunities to. Karamoko Dembele was obviously seen as the wonder kid. I'm pretty sure Brendan chucked him in, as well. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact he won't give youth a chance, but they need to be good enough. I don't think he's going to just chuck in a youth player for the sake of it. I think he's going to have a thorough look at the youth side of it. I think Brendan Rodgers' favourite thing to do as a coach is to develop players. So I think, when he's looking at it, the best place to obviously get players that you can develop and watch them grow is from the youth academy, because there's so much potential there if you can find the right player. So I'd be very surprised if Brendan isn't looking at that. And it's been a while, really, since we've had one that's came through the youth setup, because we've already got a couple obviously established ones, and Callum McGregor and obviously James Forrest now to a lesser extent towards the end of his career. But we've not really had any, big impact youth players that have made a dent on the first team in a number of years. In terms of being regular starters. And I think that's something Brendan Rodgers will look to address, because, as I say, he likes to develop his players. He likes to watch players coming on. And I think he gets more satisfaction out of it like that. If you were to offer him two players of a similar level, one he's going to have to pay whatever £5-6 million for and develop them, or if he can find somebody in the youth academy, he's going to pick, I think, the youth academy, because I think he likes to nurture homegrown talent as well. I get that impression with Brendan, but they have to be good enough. He will not waste his time on youth players that he doesn't think are going to take Celtic to the next level. Make no mistake about it. It's pretty serious this time when he's decided to come back. He is intent on making a dent in Europe, and he's not going to bring in youth players from the academy if he doesn't think that they are going to be able to make that jump to play in the Champions League, not any other European competition. He's looking for Champions League quality players or Champions League potential quality players throughout the club and throughout the transfer market. So I think the bar will be high, but I think he will absolutely be not shy on giving anybody an opportunity that is able to take it. Oh, that will be interesting.
Bernard is sunning himself on holiday with his good lady. I hope they're having a fantastic time. And he says Rodgers will turn Bernabei into a player. Okay, I'll be a snooker player, but still. Good to see even on the holiday the judge never takes that wig off, and he is definitely still getting a holiday. Not the wee fella's wig, I mean our judge's wig. Right, okay. It's not just that. When we're talking about youth players, right? I think as well, when Brendan's been talking about his vision, and he likes that sort of pie, the vision, the future of the club. It turned out James McCarthy. But he's talking about the future and the vision of the club. Opportunities to give youth players that chance that Jonathan's talking about. And I think it would be a legacy thing if he were to bring, players from the youth and go, I fucking kicked that career off, I kicked that one. I dare say, deep down, he might not be able to steal the credit for it, but I bet deep down he's like, fucking me who turned Kieran Tierney into that good a player. It was me who turned Cal Mack into that good a player, right? I might not have given them their debuts, but I changed them. Stuart Armstrong, the reason he's in the EPL is because of me. You might look at those examples and say, there's quite a lot where young guys, they might have played before for Celtic, they hadn't played for me before. That's when they really became who they are. I wonder if you'll treat the cup competitions as an opportunity then, if he does want to have that chance of having the next Kieran Tierney come through, for example, Liam. Would you think he would be bold enough to to take that risk in a cup competition with in mind, we wouldn't have been bothered 22 years ago. If I went out the League Cup under Martin O'Neill, you're gutted that night. Celtic lost the game. Bigger picture, didn't hold much. It would have been fuck it. We know where the focus is. For Champions League game coming up on Wednesday or next week, you know what I mean? And he saved 7 players from that. Do you know what I mean? I know Henrik's died, but that's because Henrik's got it in his fucking contract that I play when I say I'm playing. Right? But other than that, basically, I think the priorities that O'Neill had for Celtic they became ingrained in the supporters as well, and we kind of just mirrored that, and it was. I'm not saying we wanted to lose these games or anything like that, but we were happy to see make changes and things, and if it paid off, even better. But I feel like that conditioning has really, really swung the other way now. And I think now the generation of the last 10 years of Celtic fans that are maybe in their early 20s now, that maybe started supporting their early teens, all they know, mate, is trebles. Right? And it's trebles, it's domestic dominance. And I think they would cause more of an uproar if we were to exit a League Cup, say, because the final will be in what, December? So say potentially Celtic enter the competition in October and go out it in October, having made 10 changes. I wonder, and I'm not saying they would be raging, I'm just, hypothetically, I think they might be. I think those sort of exits now aren't as palatable because we're so conditioned now on the domestic success, which has allowed the eye of Celtic to be focused on that and not the European form. And then it takes such a sustained period of time, Liam, i.e. 20 years it will be by the time the knockouts come round this time, right? Aye. 20 fucking years, right, since a knockout win. But that all happened in plain sight. And it was a sleepwalk thing because everyone was focused on 10 in a row. And the board quite liked it being focused on 10 in a row. Now it's trebles we're all focused on. And it's like, I wonder if they'll be as happy with, Brendan, if we were to be going, look, I told you what I wanted to do with Celtic. I want to win the league. I want to do well in Europe. That's why I made 10 changes to the League Cup. We got through the first round with 9 youth players. The second round, okay, we've exited, but there's no harm done. And I wonder what the backlash or the respect would be for that and how that would sort of filter into the supporter base. I'd be okay with it, but I'm not sure the current wave, as it were, would.
Well, I think that comes down to what you started this with his vision. And it comes down to how well can he articulate and communicate that vision to the fans so that whatever we do decide that we are all on board with it. If we're all about being all in this season, okay, share with us what the plan is. Now, if he was to come out and say, listen, I've got a plan here. We talked about our team. And because remember, he talked to before, they all as a group, they make plans. What we are going to, how many games we're going to win, how many, I've got a name in this.
Totally.
All those motivational tactics he uses. And one of them might be, okay, listen, we've built up a culture of winning here. I don't want us to deviate from that at all. However, I want to take these cups, especially this first one, as an opportunity to develop some of the boys in our squad and build up some of the tactics. We're going to go in every game without any less intent of winning, but here's what we're going to try. And you share that with the fans. You share that so that we have an understanding. Because I would be excited about that, knowing that their expectation is still to win, but also knowing as well, okay, somebody might take a step backwards, but if we can see this, the potential in the forward, I mean, I think is that not what Ange did with the European games with us? Practically, he took a run at them as like a 3 games, and he was going to do his best until he ran out of substitutions, and then it was like, oh, okay, well, we gave it a good go, and so I've seen that happen. So I would be all fine with any of that as long as they manage my expectations by communicating the intent of what it is they want to do with these games. If it's team building, if it's
surely the lineup though would tell you that as well. Surely we need to be mature enough, Liam. I think you're different. I think surely if we seen a lineup of a certain manner, we would be adult enough to go, okay, that tells you where this is prioritised. Good luck to the boys. We're going to support it the exact same way we support any other game, but we're not going to be as harsh come the outcome. if it doesn't go our way. Surely that would be, you'd be able to read between the lines of the lineup without it getting spelt out to you by Brendan going, we're not taking this competition seriously. I wouldn't want to hear that either. I would like to hear it going, they're pushing that hard. This is the only way I can think of to get them the game time that these boys deserve. That's kind of how I would spin it.
I think that's it. I mean, we've won enough trebles. I mean, I'm not saying we've won enough, but okay, the last one, I mean, that's so much to the and stuff going on. I didn't even really celebrate the last one as the way it should have been, you know. I mean, miles away. If I was back in Glasgow, it'd probably be a lot different. But you know, I think, yeah, it just comes down to, okay, I think I can, as a Celtic supporter, I can handle that to see us bring some youth and develop some of our own players and at least find out what we have, whether it's something we should continue with or it's something we should abandon, you know, and just say, okay, we don't need a second team. We've got enough players for a first team.
I get that. Jonathan, Mark's got a good memory, and, you know, even Mark, you know, he's away on holiday. He's still one of the main parts of the show. He loves all this shit. And he's got a good memory when it comes to things like this. He says, look at the live show that you did, boys. It was the fan cam live, but we resurrected at the end of the season. There will be more going into the new season, because I actually really enjoyed that interaction. I was quite chuffed at the response it got. I thought that was just something I had to do when we first started the channel, just because I was a one-man band then, Jonathan. You came on the odd Monday, and other than that, it was just me looking like Mr. Boone. Remember him? The one-man band. But during that, he's right. There was a bit of an outcry when we'd already won a league and we lost the Easter Road. You know, Scott Bain had chucked the ball in the net a couple of times. Kobayashi at centre-back was terrible. And it's like, we'd won the league by then. And there was a bit of an outcry. I think he's got a point. I think, will fans be able to put that level head on if there were to be youth products brought into the team by Rodgers? And he's shown you, like I was saying this last night, and I hope this kind of ties in, actually. It's quite a nice segue. Because I was saying, I think there's two transfer strategies going on at Celtic. I think Holm and Tilio are Celtic signings. And I think you'll know who the Brendan Rodgers signings are. One's are for Celtic sustainability, one are for Brendan's success over the next 3 years of his deal. Right? One's are to come in, rock star, front men for the first 11. And the other ones are going to be what sustains Celtic's future. They're going to grow, they're going to develop, and one or two of them might just actually sneak in early because they impress that much in training, such as being the scouting done on them. I'm cool with those two tracks. I also would like then us to adopt the two tracks of Brendan Celtic, which he's told you is going for the league, going to try and make an impact in Europe, and then your cup bliss, your cup focus being more where you see a home player getting his starting every single game. You see, dare I say, Kobayashi starting every game, things like this. And maybe realising Celtic's going to work on two tandems now. They're going to have a transfer strategy for their big two competitions, and they're going to have a transfer strategy that's going to be for the future of Celtic and allowed to develop in the cups. And those cup lineups will replicate that, and the bigger competitions, your league in Europe, will also replicate where the manager's focus is. I wouldn't mind those two things being sort of running parallel alongside each other. I know what Liam's saying about it being vocalised. I'm just one of those folk. I just would like to think, you know, fucking let the penny drop in front of you and tell me a penny's dropped. You know, I think that's how I would like it to be. That's not me disagreeing. I know what Liam's saying. It's just, I don't mind there being two kind of versions of Celtic right now if they're fucking at it on one and still playing that sort of risk and reward stuff with the other side of things. If it's two cups, I'll play risk and reward with them any day. Just don't do it with league titles and don't do it with fucking Europe.
Yeah, I think there would need to be a bit of a mentality shift for a lot of the younger generation of Celtic fans. I think if Brendan is to decide to give youth a chance in things like the League Cup, I think people of my age group and older who are around and seen Martin O'Neill doing that, you know, and giving other players an opportunity that were on the fringes, I think people are more relaxed about that have already seen that before. They know what it's all about. Whereas I think, you know, if you're looking at certainly the cups since Brendan Rodgers' first time in charge, you know, it's all been about prioritising winning trebles, and Celtic have done that superbly over the years, and it's now almost became that's the sort of primary target for a lot of supporters, and they would almost look as if they've decided to play the youth in a game like that. That's madness, because they're potentially sacrificing one of those trophies. And I think for a lot of Celtic fans that are perhaps a little bit younger, they might not look at just winning the league title as being a successful season and maybe making better progress in Europe. They want to see us winning all of the silverware. It goes back to really Celtic being a bit of a victim of their own success of late, because now there is that expectancy there a lot more than it was before, that Celtic are now just going to be able to win trebles, and there is probably an air of us taking it for granted, maybe not us specifically, but certainly the fan base, there will be elements of that, and it's maybe just subconsciously rather than fully consciously. But would I subscribe to the fact that we should be giving the youth an opportunity? I think it's a good idea, particularly if you're wanting to make progress in Europe. I think you need to rest some of your players sometimes. It's a very hectic schedule throughout the season. Those League Cup games are going to come right in the middle of a Champions League group campaign, where we know we're going to be in a tough group. We know we're going to be up against it, and we're probably going to be favourites to finish bottom of our group with the bookmakers, unless the draw is favourable.
Don't be disrespectful.
Well, hopefully we get a similar group, to the one that we got last year. And then, I would say we were being a bit disrespectful to those teams last year with how that one panned out. But I think if Celtic are serious about making progress in the Champions League, they are going to need to juggle their squad a bit more. And I think, if it does mean we end up playing some of the kids, on a Wednesday night in the League Cup at Tynecastle, for example, and Hearts end up beating us, I think we have to accept that could be something we might have to sacrifice.
Does it have to be Hearts? Does it have to be Hearts? Pick another one. Go again.
Well, Hibs or Kilmarnock or Dundee United or whoever you want.
They all sound terrible, actually. See, now you say that. Nah, fuck it, we can't listen to any of them. They're all shit.
No, I mean, I think to be fair, I think the league is. I think a lot of people now turn around and are saying that the standard of the opposition, rightly or wrongly, is a lot weaker outside the Celtic and Rangers in the league. So if that is true, then Celtic can probably get away with shuffling their deck a little bit more in these games. And that's one way of finding out if Celtic do have the strength and depth to manage situations. And, it's not just about the fact you're saving players and conserving their energy for these Champions League group games for when I'm talking about the League Cup coming up. It also gives you an opportunity to see how players do react, when they are in these sort of environments, similar to what Postecoglou was doing once the league had been won last season. And I know not everyone was a fan of it, but I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought it was, a good opportunity to assess players. Ibrox was obviously a disaster in terms of the result and the performance, but you don't know that until you throw the players in, for example, in a game like that. We all know Rangers fans will now bang on about that until we play them next time, and Brendan probably beats them at Ibrox convincingly once again and reshapes everything all over. But when you're looking at it, you've got to give players opportunities. If you're giving them the opportunities, then you can maybe find that there might be somebody there that if they weren't going to get a chance usually in the league, they could seize it in one of the cups and force their way into the reckoning for bigger games further down the line and be able to improve. And I think that's a drawing point and gives, the players that are on the fringes and the youth players something to work towards. They then know that, okay, we might not be playing regularly in, the big league games or the Champions League games, but if we can make an impact in those cup games, that's going to improve our chances of getting in for those games. And Brendan Rodgers should be able to manage that, no problem at all. I think the only thing you'd have to watch for there, Russell, is will Celtic fans be able to shift their mentality towards that way of thinking? Because I think Brendan's there. I think the players will end up there as well. The question is, will the fans be able to get on board with that sort of strategy?
No, I like that. I like it, and I think the fans should be able to get on board with that sort of strategy. I think it's the future for Celtic. We're going to have our eyes on bigger prizes going forward. Liam, the summer is very young. There's still obviously a lot of work to be done. The players aren't back for the old pre-season and all that yet. Celtic's transfer bonanza hasn't quite kicked off as of yet. Talk to me about your excitement levels going into this summer from where you were a month ago, when we all believed it was going to be Angie's second coming in the Champions League, and all the plaudits became points, if you like, instead of plaudits rather than points, and we were all buzzing for it, to where you are now, excitement levels wise, that it's actually, Brendan back in situ. Do you feel? I feel bizarrely like Celtic have got their shit together more now than what I did a month ago. I feel like now there's been that test to what looked like this new modern Celtic, and it's had its first big acid test. And whilst the musical chairs had it happen in the boardroom, and I still stand by that, and whilst I think it's the Emperor's new clothes to be saying things like, "Oh, non-executive chairman, but he's the only guy with chairman in the room," like, do you know what I mean? And it's still Peter Lawwell. There's now 2 Lawwells for the price of one. All that carry on. It still did feel at times, and I have been critical of a couple of transfer windows, in between that. But it does feel like Celtic were trying to go into a new modern version of Celtic. The first acid test was the manager going. We've passed that test with flying colours. I personally am more excited now than where I was a month ago with the Scottish Cup final looming. I knowing we'd already had the league in the bag, Champions League coming up. Ange's going to go there, play the rock and roll football. We'll have 80 chances again, and this time we'll score 70 of them, and we'll cruise that group. Yeah, I still can't help but feel more excited now going into this summer and all the madness that's about to ensue between now and the first day of the season.
I think the biggest thing is knowing that we've got the cash. Okay, so we're going with so many discussions whether we'll spend it or no, but seeing how we spend that wisely, knowing that we got potential Frimpong money coming in, the trip to Japan, things we've all talked about, different sources of revenue, knowing that we're no skint, we're on our hands and knees, but we don't have this daft model as well where we're running out and buying 30-year-old, championship or EPL players as well. There's a bit more of a tactical news to our recruitment and that. And so I think it's really exciting. I think it's exciting because the world's much more expanded now. I don't think I'll be looking at 3 or 4 highlight tapes of some guy from Japan. I'm hoping that, we tap back into the French market. There's a couple of good players in Bulgaria right now. There's players in Serbia. There's Croatia. Let's see where our scouting team ends up and see what we bring in. But just see if we can actually bring in people that have got some Champions League experience. I think that's going to be exciting. I really want to see who's going to bring in as a left back. I don't think Greg Taylor's going to fit into his team. I think he's limited, and we've got a good tune at him. And I'm interested to see what he's going to do with Joe Hart as well. He needs to bring in another big player that will get the rest of the players excited as well. And so it'll be interesting to see where that shows up. So I think I'm more excited as well this right now because
it's surreal, isn't it?
Feel confident,
Confidence leads to Liam's excitement. I kind of think that makes sense. Jonathan, round it up for us. You start the show, you can end it tonight. You don't need to do the Hugh Keevans, don't worry. You can do Jim White if you want, or I don't know, any other ones you're good at. Alan McInally, good close personal friend of mine. But I mean, take it away because it does feel like this is more exciting this summer now than it could ever have been.
Yeah, I think it certainly looks like it's going to be a very exciting summer transfer window. I think we've talked about this before, but with Brendan Rodgers being in, it's up the ante. I think it becomes much more of a box office summer, if you like, than what you maybe would have got under Ange Postecoglou. There's genuinely a bit more of excitement. I think there's also the fact that when Brendan comes in, it's going to attract players of a quality that perhaps Ange isn't able to get in the door because of the fact that they come with the Brendan Rodgers name. Brendan just has that ability to lure players in, and I think they're more likely to be players that we as fans are familiar with as well, because I fully expect he will go back to the Premiership or back to Leicester potentially and look to bring 1 or 2 in from down south that could do a turn for us and that'll get everyone excited. I would agree with Liam. I think he's probably is going to be looking at areas like his left back, his goalkeeper. I'm really hoping he has a bit more joy with his keepers than he did the last time around, because it was what Doris de Vries and Scott Bain, I think he signed last time. So hopefully he's got a better one lined up this time, and that doesn't turn out to be a blind spot for Brendan like it was for our good friend Martin O'Neill. But I think there's a lot of potential going into this window that it could be an absolute blockbuster summer for Celtic, because I'm with you. I think Celtic will end up breaking their transfer record. I think they'll pay more for somebody than they did for Odsonne Edouard. I don't know what position it'll be, but I fully expect that come the end of the window, I think Celtic will have made at least one big, huge signing that will, surpass what's been paid before. I would also expect there to be a lot of other sprinklings of perhaps surprises that Brendan might lure up from England that perhaps we aren't necessarily expecting. I think there'll be at least 2 or 3 sort of names in there that Brendan will get that will excite us massively, and then there'll also be the others that kind of come alongside that.
Did any name hit you off the top? I'll tell you the one that just comes straight to mind for me, that would be the one you go, no way. And folk might laugh at this, I don't care. The one that would really, I think, would be Scott McTominay.
McTominay would be huge.
40
McTominay
million.
would be huge.
He would be the one.
Right now. 40
I
million.
think. I think they would. I think that would be one that you would need to use sort of, Rangers tactics and go, he really wants to come. Can we get him on loan for a year, and then you pay it, and then his value kind of just goes down because he tells Man United he's not happy. I think you wouldn't get him up front for a fee, but I think that'll be a question he'll ask over the summer. Just a hunch. I don't do ITK, as you know. I just use my imagination, but I think he might ask. Speak to Scott. See if you get to keep your asset on your books, but he gets to come to Celtic for a year. I think McTominay would be someone he would consider. Anyone else that's coming to mind that would blow your wee brains out, Jonathan? Or Liam?
I think Wilfred Ndidi would be a good one. Not to the same level as McTominay, but I think perhaps a more realistic move, because he kind of reminds me of what Lenny had as a manager the first time around in Victor Wanyama. I always think we needed a power midfielder for the Champions League. I think we've got a lot of options in the centre of the park, but I think somebody like Ndidi could slot in as that sort of Victor Wanyama role, give us a lot of strength in the middle of the park, give us a bit more power in there, plus also offering that bit more protection to the back line than what we have at the moment. So that would certainly be one that would pique my interest. Liam, you got anyone that's coming to your mind?
Boy who plays for FC Bruges, Buchanan, plays for the Canadian national team in front
the winger.
Johnson, and he's rapid. He's got a mean streak. He likes to get involved. He takes on players. He cuts in. He's good. He'd be well within their budget, and I think he'd be dynamic in a Celtic shirt.
I love it. Thinking outside the box there, Liam. Thinking outside the box. I like that. Right, lads, that will round up the Tuesday tickets, 8:05. It feels so early to be finishing off the bus. The bus used to roll in at 10:30 at night. That was me parking it up at the depot. However, change times, we just go on whenever we want, because the key is not about the time you go on, it's the content you deliver. That'd be my final message on that shit. Anyway, Brendan, get that checkbook out, make us a signing. We're all excited to see it. And obviously we will likely be back. Me and Phil still need to do this season review a bus review bus stop show. I play sevens on a Wednesday now, so I don't know when the fuck we'll squeeze it in. Might do it tomorrow night. Who knows? Keep your eyes peeled. Hit the notification button. See you.